welcome back to the Curvaceous Bounty of Sin City on VegasAllNetRadio.com, the home of the final frontier of free speech, where we can say whatever the motherfuck we want, you cocksucking son of a bitches.
And that's why we are allowed. We can have really good guests like Michelle.
And that's why we're not on regular radio, motherfucker.
We just did a whole 10-minute stint on poo.
It wasn't 10 minutes. It was like 3 minutes.
Yeah, it was 3 minutes.
It's like 3 minutes. It just seemed longer because that's how all poos seem.
I know.
So Michelle, I want to go back and talk to Michelle because I have lots to talk to Michelle about. Okay, I've been, I'm a news junkie. Everybody knows that. And so I've been seeing a lot of news articles, which triggered me to go on the internet and read a lot about children who at a very young age, like 3, 4, are telling mommy and daddy, no, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl, or vice versa. And, some parents you see are very okay with, if he wants to wear pink, we're going to let him wear pink. And, if he wants to go to the Barbie aisle, we're going to let him go. So I was reading a lot about hormone blockers, where the parents have to make this decision
before
when
puberty.
A boy, like a girl goes through it at like 12, a boy at 14. Are you sure that your child is in the wrong sex, and should you go on the hormone blockers? And it's a big, wondering if a child that young can make that kind of decision. How young were you till you knew, like, I'm not, I'm a girl, I'm not a boy? And how young were you, and did you express that at that young age?
I don't know if people. I think this day and age is a whole different generation. So I think kids see something totally different, and parents are more open and accepting to that. I grew up in a small Baptist town outside of Houston, so it's a whole different ball game.
That's the Bible Belt down there in Texas.
So first of all, I remember when I hit puberty, I cried. When I got facial hair and I got body hair, because my dad and grandfather are apes, so I cried when I got body hair, and it scared it. I think that's when I realized it, but it wasn't until I never put that together. But I always hated it. But I always asked my father if I could have blonde hair. Could it be long? I wanted my ears pierced. I always wanted the girly things or wear different things.
You just didn't know what to call it then, maybe?
Yeah,
or
I don't know what
you didn't know that there were other people. Like, I think kids now realize that there's other people like that in the world. I mean, you got Chaz Bodo on Dancing with the Stars, and
I think parents are more accepting of it or know about it, so they know you
didn't even know to ask Daddy, I want to be a girl.
I think a lot of people now say, oh, I know my kid's going to be gay, just by the way he acts. But that's probably what a lot of people would have said about me, because I was a feminine boy and my voice never changed. But I just remember body hair, the arm hair, the leg hair and stuff just really
stressing you out, huh?
Well, yeah. So I think that if I had parents that earlier that knew that and could stop it, it would be a great thing, because I think it does traumatize. And I think these parents that are doing this for their children are doing the right thing. A lot of people say a kid doesn't know, but you got to remember, kids know more than we all think they know, and especially they know more than they lead on or what we think. Even it's when kids hit that stage where judgment. A kid never judges. Kid doesn't see color. A kid doesn't see sex, doesn't see race, and I think it doesn't. It's like a certain age. I don't know what it is. They get that judgment and that's when things change.
It's around second or third grade.
Yeah, kids are very pure. In other words, if a little boy comes, he doesn't know that he should not say, no, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. And and that's a story I read on the internet the other day where it was a whole thing about somebody saying, hey, you're a good boy. He says, no, I'm a girl. And he was like 2.5 years old. No, I'm not a boy, I'm a girl. So a kid at that age doesn't know that there's a stigma behind being in the wrong body.
Yeah, I think, and also I always wanted to play with girls' toys. I never wanted to be with boy stuff. I never liked sports. My dad made me play sports, and then he realized I'm not good at it, and I didn't like it. I was in the outfield picking flowers instead of paying attention. But I think after the second season of baseball, he never insisted that I did anything sports related. My brothers are and are very masculine, and it's totally. I'm the oldest though, but my brothers are total opposite of me. So you would never ever guess in the whole world. But it's kind of a thing that you don't. I think if my parents would have known, maybe it would be different. But it's a whole different generation too.
Right.
So
It's probably easier on kids now.
it
would
is. I
think.
think it's easier on kids now. I think it's easier on parents. It's kind of like they have guides for this kind of
I
thing.
was gonna say there's so many resources now that
Yeah,
probably weren't
doctors know
available.
more than they did back then, and so it's kind of like, um, I was lucky though that I did transition in my early 1920, because I was able to transition with hormones very well, and you can transition with hormones very well in adulthood, but a lot of people I've known 40 and 50-year-olds who transition later on in life, and um, it's a little harder for them because you've already aged
Right.
and you've already done all that, and
Well,
you
and
already
that's what they were talking about, the hormone blockers. So the little boys so they don't go what you went through where
yeah.
puberty like blew you up. That it's not that big. I mean, they were explaining, this one parent in this blog I read was saying that the doctor explained to them that the blockers are not as big a deal as you think,
Yeah.
because the minute you stop giving the kid the blockers,
Blocker,
they
they
will go through,
reverse. Yes.
no matter how old, they will go through puberty at that point.
Yeah,
So
because see what happened for me is I was on hormones for 8 years, and then medically my doctors decided to take me off because breast cancer runs on both sides of my family very rapidly. So I was just enhancing that
right.
chance of me getting breast cancer at an earlier age. So I stopped for I think 4 years. Just in this past few months have I went back on hormones. But yes, you reverse everything that you did.
Now,
So
let me ask you a question. With being off hormones and then going back on, what differences are you seeing in your body?
I don't see any differences right now. You really don't.
Do you
You'll never.
feel different emotionally
My
sometimes?
boobs feel different.
Okay.
They're more sensitive.
Well, and I know, like,
Uh,
I've read a lot about females transitioning to male,
mhm.
and when their male hormones kick in, they're like horn dogs,
Yeah.
because that's what happens when males go through
And
puberty.
and they become super aggressive, hyper
Right,
aggressive.
right. So
So-
that's why I was.
Are you gonna ask? You want me to
Yeah,
ask?
we actually have a question from chat. You talked about being lucky with generics
Generics.
with genetics. Does that mean that you were quite pretty as a boy?
Yes, I was a feminine boy. I
Were
was.
you?
I when I remember the first time I dressed up, I I was 5, I think. My mom dressed me up, and I wish I could find this picture to this day, but I think my dad, when everything happened, it got destroyed in the process. Because I think in the beginning when my dad found out, I think he blamed himself sometimes. But but when I was younger, I would dress up, and I remember them putting me in drag or whatever for Halloween, and I won a costume contest, and that changed a lot of things. And I wanted to be a girl every Halloween. I think after the third time, my dad told me no, and I never was able to do it again. But yeah, I hid my even when I became an adult, I hid my femininity because in the gay culture, if you're femme, it's kind of looked down upon too. A
Right.
lot of guys want a masculine guy, so I was buff. I tried to be at least buff.
Is
I
that the
had
story behind the tattoo and
no,
the
tattoos
logo?
came,
Okay.
no, the tattoos came later on
Okay.
as a woman. But I mean, when I was a male, I would have a goatee and sideburns, and I had this whole James Dean look going on for myself. So I was a very attractive, and my grandma will tell me that to this day. She says, you and one of my cousins are the most beautiful people in our family. It's not like when someone walks by you, even when I was a boy, girls would look at me, and my grandma go, look how those girls look at you. But when I became a girl, it's the same thing. It's just like there's something about you that people are
Attracted
to.
Yeah.
So I was always blessed with that. My mom, I look like my mom's twin. So
Your mom's like, damn, I make a pretty girl.
we could be sisters. If you see a picture of us, we look like sisters. My parents don't look their age, so I probably aged pretty well.
That's always nice.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit, because you've mentioned a little bit about your dad. At what point did you sit your family down and say, I'm not a boy anymore,
Well,
or I want to be a girl?
when I decided to transition, I said I have to leave.
Leave Texas, leave
Yeah,
the family.
I had to leave because I didn't know how I was going to do it there, and I didn't know how I was going to do it in front of them. Um, I had already been my mom had went through menopause in her 30s, so I was already stealing her hormone pills.
Really? Okay.
So, which I don't recommend anybody to do.
Don't go run into your mother's
But
medicine
Like
cabinet.
stealing oxy. I stole your progesterone, mom.
but I decided that I needed to find a job that would accept my transition. I just didn't know how it was all going to play in my head. But I decided to go to cosmetology school. I went to a Veda Institute in Texas. I graduated, and I found a job outside of Chicago, and I moved. I literally, the day I graduated from cosmetology school, me and my brother drove my car up to Chicago, and I moved in with a guy that I had met on roommates.com.
Did you go through cosmetology school as a woman?
No.
Okay.
And what was funny is when I was in cosmetology school, I was androgynous, I guess you could say. I looked like a girl.
You were Pat.
Yeah, I was Pat. A lot of the old ladies who would come in didn't know if I was a male or a female. A lot of people called me by my what my real female name is because that's what I liked being called. They didn't call me by my boy name, and so it was very confusing to a lot of people. So when I went to my job in Chicago, I didn't start till Tuesday, but I had gotten there early, so I wanted to go see the salon that I was going to work in. So I went to the salon and hung out with the owner. I had already met her before when they hired me, but I went a few months earlier. So when I went into the salon, I hung out, and there was a little kid in there. And when it was all said and done, after things happened and she closed shop, she sat me down. She wanted to ask me something. She goes, "Okay, so I have a problem with my clients. They want to know if you're a girl or a boy." And she was like, "I don't know what to tell people." And she's like, "I also know you didn't come to Chicago for a man, because originally that was my whole purpose. I had met a guy and was moving to Chicago for him." And she told me, "So what is it?" And it all came to about, this was like my guardian angel who was sent to me. She basically said, "Okay, if you want to be a woman," she says, "when you come into work the next day, I don't ever want to see you in boys' clothes." And from that day on, I threw everything out that was boy related. I think I kept a few things because I didn't know how I was going to tell my family yet. So I kept some things in the closet, but I
A
never,
button down and some khakis.
yeah, I never went to work. I never went to work as a male.
She was a little angel then.
She
She
was.
like pushed you
She
over the edge
supported.
you needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she supported it. She had a 5-year-old daughter that I met at the time, and it grew up. And she told her daughter that I was trans, and she explained those things. And see, those are so many parents like that these days who, she always told me I was a blessing and that I was, you're a gift. And I think a lot of girls don't realize that, and a lot of people don't see that. But I always felt like I was born this way. I never chose to be this way. But I also feel that God put us here to be different. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think there's always been trans people. It's just, it's never really been in the spotlight until,
Oh, I think you're absolutely
yeah.
right.
Well,
Like,
there are so many. There are so many. Not uh, even in Native American cultures. There are so many cultures across the world where a transsexual or a transgendered male or female is revered as this holiest of
Hmm.
holies because they are both male and female. They are yin and
hermaphrodite.
yang. Right. Well, they're like a spiritual hermaphrodite. They're
Hmm.
less physical hermaphrodites, although physical hermaphrodites, though rarer, are even more holy.
Yeah.
And it's universally across most ancient cultures before you get into those whole, Bible thumping big three, universally across the world, people who said, I know I was born one way, but inside I am another way, they are revered as being the
Hmm.
holiest of holies because they have everything within them to reach God better. And that's how I think of, transgendered
Hmm.
people is that must just be a really not I know that most of these people, once they figure out, okay, I am a woman inside a man's body, I
Hmm.
can change that, but it must seem so relieving to know that you're so one with yourself.
Yeah.
You know who you are better than most people who are straight know who they are.
well, and I was just thinking as Michelle was telling the story of I had to get out of Texas, and I mean, about 3 or 4 times you said I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't
I
know where I was
didn't.
going. I didn't know what I was going to do, and so my thought was like, what a fucked up struggle.
It
You
is.
know,
Well,
you can't be who you really need to be with your family, but you love your family,
mm,
and you got to go to this other place where, again, you don't know what to be. This
mm.
lady was a godsend to
Oh
you
yeah,
then to tell you.
she was like my mother, my friend, everything. And what was great about it was that even I even had clients who wouldn't see me because of my situation because I was transitioning and it was an awkward stage. There was time where you didn't look like a certain way. So yeah, but 3 years later, after transitioning and I was to a point in my life that I felt like I looked right, I contacted my family and well, actually a year or so later, I contacted him and it took my dad 3 years to come around.
Okay, we're
So
gonna when we get back from break, I want to
Talk more about
talk
that.
more
yeah.
about your family. But okay, here a question for you, talking about transitioning. Okay, so what's a transition? In other words, like, okay, so you make the decision here that I want to start hormones and I'm going to live as a woman. And
Mhm.
then you were saying during my transition. Now, explain to me because, in my mind, somebody who has the full surgery, their transition is complete once that
Mhm.
surgery is done. Did you feel your transition was complete after you lived as a woman for how long? After maybe your breasts were done? When you felt like a woman? When do you think your transition was there?
When I got my boobs.
That made you that was
Mhm.
that was when it was all done.
Mhm.
For you. You cut a lot of hair to get them boobs, didn't you?
No, I had a sugar daddy.
Oh, that's even better.
Ooh.
That's way even better.
We
I am
got-
so enjoying this
I
conversation
know.
because I'm just like so into it.
We have more Michelle Austin when we come back, and ketchups. I believe Sierra said she's got a banging
I
ketchup,
got a killer ketchup. This ketchup, it twisted my mind.
right?
Okay,
Yeah.
And then you're sore,
I fell
right?
Hard.
And then I had sleep sex, kind of. So when we come back, we've got more Michelle Austin. We're gonna have to cut Sweet Cheeks off, I'm sure, but we'll be back. We got some Bruno Mars and Adele during the break, so stay tuned.